You had an article from Eric Mangini picking his surprise teams from each division in the NFL. So let's warm up with a little bit of that, see what's going on, see where his head's at, and see if we agree.
This is all for the NFC.
All for the NFC?
So
Okay.
NFC surprise teams. And we're going to start with the NFC North. Everybody's favorite surprise team, the Bears.
The Bears, really? So I get like the Bears being a surprise team and being better next year, but I don't see them winning more than 6 or 7 games. Are they a surprise team if they only win 7 games?
I also think that they're in one of the weirdest divisions in the NFL where
Yeah.
you have the Lions, who are going to be world beaters next year. You have the Vikings, who are still competitive each year. And the Packers are a bit of a Steelers situation where they're historically good and you got to give them some respect. Then there's the Bears who, yes, they went out and got Tremaine Edmonds. Yes, they went out and got DJ Moore. Yes, they made some improvements with the offensive line. But at the same time, there's a lot of question marks there. Their head coach, how is he? I don't know if I necessarily disagree with this take, but I also think that I think the real surprise team is going to be the Lions.
Yeah, I think the real surprise team will be the Lions, and there's a lot of momentum for the Lions going into next year. But like for the Bears, it's like, what is surprising? Like, is 8 wins surprising? Like, it's kind of eyebrow raising, but unless they make an actual push for the playoffs and make it, I don't really see it as a surprise.
Honestly, the real surprise team for me in the NFC North potentially could be the Packers
Mm.
because I think that they'll overperform, believe it or not. They still have a pretty good roster overall. Their weapons, they got Christian Watson there. Romeo Dobbs is a year older, and they did draft a wide receiver. Plus, their defense is still pretty solid. So I honestly, if I'm going to pick a surprise team, I think the Packers are going to be better than we expect them to be.
Yeah, and they did play better than we thought they would without Aaron Rodgers last year. And Jordan Love was starting to show signs of being a good quarterback next year. So you have a guy who's been sitting behind Aaron Rodgers this whole time. So you hope he's ready to go. But that defense is still very good. And they probably do still have the best defense in that division, one of the top 5 defenses in the NFC. So I think the Packers will have a surprising year, but with their franchise and their history, I think it should be a pretty good lock for Jordan Love to be at least competent. And if he's competent, they have a chance to make the playoffs for sure.
For sure. NFC South, this is one I actually agree with. The Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, we've both been on the Falcons, so we'd be hypocrites if we slammed him for it.
Yeah, because his argument here was young weapons should have a really good offense, and then their defense, they restructured it with they got Jordan Poyer and a couple other guys on defense. Plus, they had some nice pieces to begin with, like Grady Jarrett. So I'm a big fan of the Falcons. I think the Falcons make sense.
Yeah, and the Falcons went out there. They got Bijan Robinson. They got weapons. They got wide receivers. We got some players on defense. So it's like, all right, Ritter, we're going to get you some help here. Now you have a good weapon at wide receiver. You have a good weapon at running back and a good weapon at tight end. Let's see what you got this year. If you don't show us enough, then we're going to go ahead and just move on and potentially trade up for our quarterback of the future next year.
Plus, with that division with the Panthers, who look through, they're going to be pretty average. You have the Bucks, who are going to be horrible. And then you have the other team that I'm forgetting about. So yeah, give me the Falcons. And then we have the NFC East. He picks the New York Giants.
To do what? Like, does it say in here like what he's picking them to do?
This is a quote. He says, "The Giants are not sneaking up on anybody. They're expecting to win in a market that has very little patience for not winning once the bar is set. They haven't been able to add that much. Darren Waller was a big addition offensively, but they've paid a lot of money for guys who are already under contract."
Yeah, they're not going to be surprising because he debunked his own guess and his own prediction in his own statement when he said they haven't been able to add much besides Darren Waller. Well, if we're not adding much besides Darren Waller, what are we doing here? Because Darren Waller hasn't played since he got paid. He's been an inconsistent player who has regressed as a blocker and he's regressed as a player and he's gotten injured every single year. So if you're saying that's all we've been able to add, what have you really added? And people will be able to figure out this new offense that Brian Daboll's running with Daniel Jones. They know what the Giants are about. If anything, they're going to regress next year. Daniel Jones was in his 5th year, and it took him that long to have his best year. Usually you're still getting progressively better. Like even someone like Josh Allen, like sure, maybe his 5th year was better than his 4th year, but he actually showed that guy's a dude, Daniel Jones was really good, and you're just like, oh, that guy's like Ryan Tannehill in his best year, or Kirk Cousins. He's not like a dude though.
No, not at all. If there's a team that I would pick for the surprise team, not that I have very much expectations for them, it'd be the Commanders because we know
Yeah.
how good the Cowboys are going to be. We know how good the Eagles are going to be. The Giants, I feel like if anything, this should be a team that should step back. The Commanders, if Eric Bieniemy works and Sam Howell is what what they think they could be, then they could surprise me by winning like I don't know 5 games.
Yeah. That would be a surprise. I feel like anything over 5 wins for the Commanders is going to be a shock. Absolute shock. We have no idea what the quarterback situation is going to be. You're going with Howell, and we'll see what he is, but like your weapons are still a question mark. You have question marks at your offensive line. You weren't able to keep Carson Wentz upright the first few weeks of the year. Like with a young quarterback, that's not going to fly. And like,
No.
sure, did he have his game of his life versus the Cowboys? Yeah, but that's more of all right, we haven't seen this before and we have no idea how to game plan or what to expect. So we're playing pretty basic coverages.
Yeah, exactly. And then with the NFC West, to wrap it up, his surprise team was the Seattle Seahawks. His reasoning, it was not a flash in the pan for Geno Smith when a team that has that many young players playing that early at such a high level and it's able to infuse another four in the top 50 drafts, blah, blah, blah. Picks the Seahawks. And what are your thoughts on his selection there?
Yeah, we were all thinking that. Like obviously the Seahawks are going to be one of those teams. Like the Seahawks went out there and added Jackson Smith and Jigba, and then we were saying like, hey, the Seattle Seahawks could potentially compete with the 49ers because they're probably going to start the season with Sam Darnold, and then there's going to be some uncertainty with Brock Purdy, Trey Lance. How does that affect the locker room? And now we have an absolute disaster brewing in San Francisco. So it's like, yes, do we respect the 49ers and say they are the de facto favorite? Yeah. But with Geno Smith another year in that system, another really good draft, like it's not a surprise team. Like everyone's gonna see this coming.
Yeah, the key word that is supposed to be said there is surprise.
Yeah.
For me, if I had to pick a surprise team, the 49ers are going to be good. The Seahawks are going to be good. The Cardinals are going to be the worst team in the NFL history. So
Yeah.
if you're going to pick a surprise team, make an argument for the Rams. Now, I'm not going to because I don't believe in the Rams. But you could say, oh, Sean McVay. Oh, Matt Stafford comes back. Oh, they had a bunch of injuries. I don't agree with what I'm saying, by the way. But that's the argument I would make if I was arguing that. If I had to pick a surprise team, I'd pick the Rams.
I would argue that the Cardinals would be the surprise team because they're going to shock people with how bad they're going to be next year. Like people aren't going to see it coming. They're like, "Oh, it's week 11 and the Cardinals haven't won a game yet. That's weird." And
Oh,
then people will be like, "Whatever," cuz it's the Cardinals and no one cares.